The anime begins with the rise of the Witch Clan, who were cruel to the Demon Clan. To protect his people, the king of the Demon Clan set up a special place called the Demon Clan Court on top of Bujo Mountain and declared war on the Witch Clan. During this war, the 10 princes of the Demon Clan turned into suns. This made the earth so hot that it became hard for plants, animals, and people to survive. One day, a powerful figure from the Witch Clan, named God E, appeared. He was incredibly strong and used his powers to shoot down 9 of the 10 suns. But one prince, named Liu Yin, managed to escape. After the war, both the Demon Clan and the Witch Clan were left very weak, giving humans a chance to fight back. The humans attacked the Demon Clan court and defeated the demons. The elders from both sides then worked together to turn the Demon Clan court into the Heavenly Court. Even though most of the demons were gone, Liu Yin was still around and wanted revenge. He started causing trouble everywhere. Meanwhile, a man named Qi Yuan was meditating on Xiaoqiu Mountain, trying to get stronger. But when Liu Yin attacked, Qi Yuan had to stop his training to face him. From a distance, Qi Yuan's student, Li Changshou, was rushing to his teacher's side because he knew his teacher was in danger. When he arrived, Qi Yuan was struggling against the powerful Liu Yin. Even though Changshou wasn't there in person, his magical spirit, called a Shikigami, was fighting to protect his teacher. When an opportunity came, the Shikigami quickly helped Qi Yuan escape. But Liu Yin was too fast and caught up with them. With no other choice, the Shikigami decided to stand and fight. And Qi Yuan, who was badly injured, tried to strike Liu Yin with his sword. Sadly, he wasn't strong enough to defeat him. In the end, the Shikigami that had been protecting Qi Yuan was also destroyed. At the same time, Liu Yin launched an attack that struck Qi Yuan. When Changshou finally arrived, he found his teacher had already died, and he cried out in grief. The story then flashes back to 200 years earlier, where we see Qi Yuan talking with his new student, Lan Lingyi. Qi Yuan explained that the world is made up of different schools of thought like human Taoism, led by the wise ancestor Tai Ching, Buddhist Taoism, led by Buddha Yuanzi, and Jia Taoism started by Tong Tian. All of these teachings came from their main teacher, Hong Chun, who was the ancestor of Taoism. Soon after, they reached the edge of a lake, and Changshou emerged from the water, quickly hugging his teacher. He told Qi Yuan that while he was meditating, he had a vision of his teacher being attacked by Liu Yin. Thinking it was just a bad dream, Changshou was relieved to find out it wasn't real. He even joked that he would rather get scolded by Qi Yuan than lose him. Qi Yuan then playfully taught Changshou a lesson, making him happy despite the scolding. After that, Qi Yuan told Changshou not to teach Lingyi anything strange. Once the master left, Changshou checked Lingyi's body and soul to make sure she was free from any demon seeds or curses. When he saw that she was fine, Changshou declared her ready to move forward. Changshou then began teaching Lingyi through games. He ignored his master's advice and instead gave her some unconventional lessons. He explained that if she ever faced a really strong enemy, it was okay to run away and ask for help. If she didn't have time to get help, she could just escape as quickly as possible. Soon after, Changshou asked Lingyi to repeat what she had learned. Loudly, Lingyi said that if she was in trouble, she should pretend she didn't know what was going on and run away. Changshou was pleased and applauded her answer. However, when their teacher found out, he wasn't happy and gave Changshou a scolding. Seeing this, Lingyi just decided to relax and not worry about it. Later, when Qi Yuan decided to go into seclusion, he put Changshou in charge of teaching the younger students. There, Changshou asked if his teacher wasn't worried that he might teach Lingyi bad things. Qi Yuan gave him a sharp look, which made Changshou nervous. After the master left, Changshou told Lingyi that in 10 years there would be an important experience conference. To prepare, Lingyi needed to reach the Qi refinement stage, the first level of cultivation. He explained that there are 3 more stages after that for becoming immortal, and they are soul transformation, void refinement, and the attainment of Taoism. Each stage has 9 levels, and each one has special powers. In the Qi refinement stage, she would be able to control objects in the air. In the soul transformation stage, she could fly. To master the 5 elements fairy technique, she would need to reach the void refinement stage. Finally, Changshou explained that if she reached the attainment of Taoism stage, she would have to face powerful lightning strikes on her journey to immortality. At the 9th level, she would face the ultimate test, known as the calamity of immortality. If her foundation in Taoism was strong and she survived the lightning, she would become immortal. But if she failed, both her body and Taoism would be destroyed. Every day, Changshou spent time with Lingyi, helping her with her training. He didn't just teach her about cultivation, but also encouraged her whenever she faced problems. Besides that, Changshou also taught her about poison refining. As time went on, Lingyi grew into a beautiful woman, and many men started to notice her. They were so captivated by her charm that they often felt shy around her. Soon, disciples from all over gathered at Baifan Hall for the Duxian Sect Experience Conference. Immortal Zhong Yu welcomed the new disciples and introduced them to the Duxian Sect. At that time, the elders then explained the exam system. The test locations were set at the northeast coast, Zhongshan Plain, Nezambu Plain, and Baijala Plain. The students had to pick one area to complete their trial. One by one, the students entered their chosen locations, and some passed the tests, while others didn't. Lingyi had imagined that she and her seniors would choose the eastern sea coast. She entered that area and successfully passed the challenges. However, when Lingyi found out that Changshou had chosen a different location, she felt disappointed. Everyone's attention was soon drawn to Xianya, who was the first to pass the test in Baijilu Plain. No one had ever succeeded there before. Not long after, Yuan Qing, who was interested in Xianya, also managed to pass the test in Baijilu Plain, followed by Wang Qi from Shaoling Peak. While everyone was still focused on Xianya, Changshou secretly tried to enter the Baijilu Plain. However, Jiujiu stopped him, saying that Changshou wasn't strong enough to face the tough challenges there. Changshou panicked because he had been caught. Jiujiu then challenged Changshou to a fight, saying that if he could either defeat her or last until the incense burned out, he would be allowed to go to the Baijilu Plain. Soon after, a fierce match happened between Jiujiu and Changshou. Every time Changshou was in trouble, he found a way to counter Jiujiu's attacks, surprising her. In the end, just when Changshou thought he was free, Jiujiu hit him with a final attack, making her confident she had won. But when they both realized the incense had burned out, it meant that Jiujiu had actually lost. Jiujiu was shocked. Changshou then gave her a letter saying that if anything happened to him, she wouldn't be blamed by Qi Yuan. Relieved, Jiujiu finally stopped protesting. After passing the test, Changshou followed Jiujiu and the other participants to the Baijilu Plain. During this time, Jiujiu wanted to check Changshou's pulse to understand why his cultivation wasn't improving. Changshou got worried because Jiujiu, who was in the genuine immortal realm, might discover his secret. Afraid that she would find out he had been hiding his progress, Changshou didn't let her touch his veins. This led to a funny chase between the two. In the end, Changshou admitted that he would start shaking if touched by women. Without realizing it, Xianya touched his cheek to test his claim, and Changshou indeed showed signs of convulsions. Seeing this, Xianya believed that Changshou was allergic to women. Upon hearing that, Changshou was shocked because Xianya had figured out his secret. Unexpectedly, Xianya dared to touch him again, making the situation even more awkward. On their journey, a man approached Changshou's group. He claimed to have been sent by Xianya's father to protect her. Xianya was surprised because the man didn't introduce himself. Yuan Qing then explained that he knew the man was named Yuan because they had been friends since childhood, and Yuan Qing also knew the people close to Xianya. So, Yuan ended up joining the group. However, in Changshou's mind, he thought Yuan might be up to something suspicious, so he decided to keep an eye on him. Meanwhile, Lingyi's team had arrived on the East Coast. After getting advice from her mentor, Lingyi quickly took action. At first, she was able to defeat her enemies. But when she saw that there were too many of them, she remembered Changshou's teachings and decided to run away. Shortly after, Changshou's team also arrived at the Baijilu Plain. All the disciples had gone in except for Changshou, which made Jiujiu think that he wasn't prepared for the dangerous poison spread across the Baijilu Plain. As a way to apologize for causing Changshou to have convulsions earlier, Xianya gave him many spells and medicines. Before the team moved forward, Jiujiu gave each disciple a special stone. If they ran into trouble, they could crush the stone to send a signal to Jiujiu, who would come and help them. At that time, Yuan wanted to join in, but Xianya didn't allow it. Yuan Qing then promised to protect Xianya in Yuan's place. After they entered the area, a herd of monsters attacked them. Xianya easily defeated the monsters. Then, Changshou was asked to join either Xianya's or Wang Qi's team since they had to split up. But instead of choosing, Changshou suddenly ran away, leaving everyone else surprised, especially Jiu, who was very upset with him. Soon after, Changshou decided to move alone because he was after the miasma treasure and wanted to teach Yuan a lesson, as he suspected Yuan might be up to no good. While the other two teams were busy with their own tasks, Changshou ran as far as he could. During this time, Changshou lost his way, causing Jiu to lose track of him, which made her worried. But when Jiu saw how well-prepared Changshou was and the powerful artifacts he had, she realized why he always seemed so calm. Meanwhile, Yuan, who was interested in Changshou's ancient artifact, sent someone to kill him. And Changshou, aware that he was being targeted, set up a spider detector near his hiding spot. Using this, he detected a strong, dangerous presence nearby. At the same time, Yuan's allies were setting up a dragon trap to capture Jiu, hoping to carry out their plan without her interference. They then attacked Wang Qi's team. After capturing 2 students from Wang Qi's team, the enemies placed them in the dragon trap formation. The rocks breaking signaled to Jiu that Wang Qi's team was in trouble. Shortly after, Jiu also learned that Xianya's group was facing difficulties. She and Yuan decided to split up, with Yuan going to help Xianya's group, while Jiu went to rescue Wang Qi's team. When Jiu arrived, she fought back against the attackers and took Wang Qi and his friends to safety. At the same time, the dragon trap formation activated. Xianya's group was attacked, but Xianya still managed to defeat their enemies. The attackers then took pills that greatly increased their strength. Meanwhile, Jiu, now caught in the dragon trap formation, tried to figure out how to escape. The only way to break free was to find the dragon's birth point, but unfortunately, Jiu couldn't find it, leaving her struggling to deal with the situation. Soon after, a distress signal from Xianya's team was detected, making Jiu very worried. Meanwhile, the stalker named Eiko, who had attacked Changshou, fell into one of Changshou's traps. The trap released a strong anesthetic, so Eiko injured himself to stay awake. But then, Eiko he hit by another trap and had to face Changshou's special sky-changing umbrella. This was all part of Changshou's plan to defeat his enemy. First, Changshou limited Eiko's movement and used poison to weaken him. Once Eiko was poisoned, Changshou moved on to the next step, which was using his Shikigami tactics to mess with Eiko's mind and lower his guard. Under the influence of these tactics, Eiko's soul became unstable, and eventually, he was defeated. To make sure there were no bad consequences, Changshou used the Shikigami to chant prayers and purify Eiko's soul. After the ritual was complete, Changshou gained access to Eiko's storage space. Meanwhile, Jiu was feeling very stressed because she couldn't break the dragon trap formation. She wished that Jiu was there, thinking he might be able to help. At the same time, Jiu sneezed because Jiu mentioned his name. Jiu was surprised that the danger signal was still coming from Xianya's team, even though Yuan was supposed to be helping them. This made her remember Changshou's warning that Yuan couldn't be trusted. Realizing how bad the situation was, Jiu started to believe that Yuan might be behind the disaster they were facing. Meanwhile, Changshou looked into Eiko's memory and discovered that Yuan and his allies had planned something evil on the Baijula Plain. Then, Yuan Qing was revealed to be the mastermind behind this plot. His goal was to target Xianya because she was the daughter of the ruler who had destroyed his family's land. Even though Changshou knew about Yuan Qing's plan, he stayed focused on finding medicinal herbs. He was confident that Yuan Qing wouldn't dare to confront Jiu directly or mess with the Dushin sect. Because of this, Changshou believed that Jiu and the others weren't in immediate danger. Suddenly, something strange happened in the sky. At the same time, Xianya fell, and Changshou quickly caught her. But in the process, Xianya's sword accidentally landed on Changshou's foot, making him cry out in pain. Meanwhile, Lingyi was in trouble, fighting off a horde of sea monsters. She threw poison at them, causing all the monsters to collapse. And the guide, who saw this rare poison, became curious and asked Lingyi where she got it. Lingyi accidentally mentioned that she got the poison from Changshou. Realizing her mistake, she panicked, almost revealing that Changshou was skilled at making poisons. The guide then asked Lingyi for a sample of the poison to study it. Even though she didn't want to, Lingyi felt she had no choice and handed it over. On the other hand, Changshou couldn't bear to leave his juniors in danger, especially with a poisonous rain about to fall. As fast as he could, Changshou grabbed Xianya and ran. Not long after, Xianya woke up and asked Changshou about his supposed allergy to women. Instead of answering, he quickly ran off. Xianya then found a map and medicine that Changshou had left behind. On the map was a message telling Xianya not to trust people too easily. Changshou had also marked a safe route on the map to help Xianya avoid running into Yuanqing's team. Wanting to repay Changshou's kindness and expose Yuanqing to her father, Xianya knew she had to survive. She hoped she could make it out safely. After watching his juniors leave, Changshou focused on finding the fairy melting grass. He tracked down the location of the grass, but saw that a monster was also after it. At the same time, he realized that Xianya was being chased by Yuanqing's team. There, Changshou felt frustrated because he had given Xianya directions to avoid the enemy. He started thinking that maybe Xianya wasn't paying attention. Now, Changshou was torn between saving the fairy melting grass from the monster or helping his junior. From a distance, he gave instructions to Xianya on how to deal with Yuanqing's team. Upon hearing that, Xianya followed his guidance. After that, Changshou told Xianya to lure the enemy to the edge of a cliff. Following her senior's orders, Xianya led the enemy to the spot he had pointed out. Once they were in the right place, Changshou told her to jump. Shortly after, a wild creature appeared, drawn by the presence of prey. Yuanqing's team was caught within its attack range and became the target of the beast. Meanwhile, Jiu, who couldn't find a way to break the formation, decided to sit down and wait. Shortly after, the enemy fell near Jiu. At the same time, the dragon trap formation collapsed, and the two disciples who had regained consciousness were shocked to see that the enemy who had attacked them was already dead. They thought that it must have been a great master who destroyed the formation. This made Jiu feel like she had failed to protect her students. She then apologized to her teacher and hoped he would come to help find the students who were still in trouble. But instead of the teacher, Jiu Wu and Qi Yuan arrived. Feeling teased by Jiu Wu, Jiu became angry and took out her frustration on him. On the other hand, Qi Yuan, who was worried about Changshou, begged Jiu Wu to hurry up and find his beloved disciple. Before leaving, Jiu Wu checked the memory essence of the enemy's corpse, while Yuan managed to corner the attacking green snake monster. Since the green snake couldn't defeat Yuan, Changshou told Xianya to leave immediately. Seeing Xianya running away, Yuanqing chased after her, and a fight broke out between the two. Unable to defeat Xianya, Yuanqing took a medicinal pill that turned him into a demon, making him incredibly powerful. Soon after, Jiu discovered Yuanqing's conspiracy by examining the soul essence of the enemy's corpse. Changshou then attacked Yuan, but he fought back. Using his Shikigami tactics, Changshou managed to corner Yuan's team. In the end, Changshou didn't give Yuan a chance to reincarnate, as he locked away Yuan's soul essence. Afterward, Changshou purified Yuan's soul. After completely defeating Yuan, Changshou collected the medicinal grass, while Yuanqing managed to corner Xianya. Changshou secretly joined the fight, and once he had locked Yuanqing's movements, Xianya unleashed her ultimate attack, killing the enemy. Exhausted from the battle, Xianya fainted, and Changshou quickly caught her. He then took Xianya away from the arena. Soon after, Jiu's team found evidence of Yuan's defeat in Yuanqing's body, feeling relieved that Xianya was safe. Accidentally, Jiu Wu noticed Changshou's spider thread, leading him to believe that someone else had been secretly watching the fight between Xianya and Yuanqing. At that time, Jiu Wu thought this mysterious person with spider threads shouldn't be underestimated. Meanwhile, on the eastern sea coast, the Dragon Army reported that the Dushan sect had attacked their members. This made the Dragon King very angry. Prince Aoi wanted to keep the dragon race out of conflict with the immortals, but the general disagreed, believing their dragon race was strong enough to defeat them. In that moment, the king sided with the general, deciding that the dragon race would start a conflict with the Dushan sect. Back with Changshou, he asked Xianya not to mention his involvement in defeating Yuan Qing. Xianya admired him even more, thinking that he didn't want to brag or seek fame. Not long after, Jiujiu's team found Changshou's group. Seeing that Changshou was safe, Qi Yuan felt relieved and hugged his student. Then, Jiu Wu questioned Xianya about how Yuan Qing's team had died. Remembering her promise to Changshou, Xianya said that Yuan was killed by the snake monster and that Yuan Qing died fighting it. Then, Changshou claimed that he had only been watching the battle and didn't get involved. Of course, Jiu Wu wasn't entirely convinced. His doubts about Changshou were met with protests from Jiu. However, when asked about the spider thread that stretched across the battlefield, Changshou came up with a plan to reduce Jiu Wu's suspicion. He offered to reveal the location of the double-pupil spider's nest. This satisfied Jiu Wu, who then became friendly and stopped questioning Changshou. During that time, Jiu playfully teased Changshou about his supposed allergy to women. Then, Changshou started to feel like he always had trouble with people who had the surname Jiu. The next day, Qi Yuan gathered his juniors and showed them a simulation of how dangerous the Thunder Tribulation was. He explained that if Yuan Qing ever faced the Thunder Tribulation, he would likely die. So, Changshou came up with a plan to help his teacher survive it. The idea was that if Yuan Qing faced the first thunder, he would release a fairy breath. Afterward, he would take a specially made fairy melting pill. This would make it look like Yuan Qing had died, tricking the thunder until it passed. After that, Yuan Qing would become a turbidity immortal. Though he wouldn't be as strong as a normal immortal, he would still live as long as one. Changshou then asked Ling Yi to help him make the fairy melting pill before their teacher's Thunder Tribulation. Upon hearing that, Ling Yi was impressed by his cleverness. Later, Changshou and Ling Yi started working on making the pill together, while also discussing how to refine high-level poison pills like the fairy melting pill. They were doing this to ease their teacher's worries, as he had been staying out late at night recently. They kept this a secret from their master because they knew he wouldn't approve of their plan. Turns out, refining the fairy melting pill was expensive and took years to complete. The first step was to use a special furnace called the 1,000 Poison Gold Furnace. During this time, Changshou asked Ling Yi about the soul-splitting pill. He suspected that Ling Yi had used up all the pills. There, Changshou thanked Ling Yi for using the soul-splitting pill when they were trapped by many monsters, which had caught the attention of Elder Wan Linyan. At that moment, Ling Yi proudly called herself a hero, saying that without those pills, Changshou wouldn't have had the chance to meet Elder Wan. When Ling Yi admitted that she had used up all the soul-splitting pills, Changshou became very upset. Refining those pills had taken a lot of time, effort, thought, and money, and he couldn't believe that Ling Yi had used them up so easily. After that, Changshou and Ling Yi met with Elder Wan and Uncle Lu. There, Changshou and his friends tried to win over Elder Wan. Elder Wan asked how Changshou had managed to make the soul-breaking pill, since it required a lot of expensive ingredients. Knowing that Elder Wan was known to be stingy, Changshou mentioned using cheap ingredients instead. This showed that Changshou was even thriftier than Elder Wan, which impressed him. Now, both Changshou and Ling Yi needed to gain Elder Wan's sympathy. Next, Changshou and Ling Yi put on a dramatic act. Ling Yi pretended to feel guilty for using up all the soul-breaking pills that Changshou had made, but she explained that she had to do it to save them from being attacked by monsters. At that time, Uncle Lu noticed how close the friendship was between the two, seeing how they supported each other in tough times. Suddenly, Elder One approached Changshou and admitted that when it came to saving money, Changshou was even better than him. He commented that it must be difficult for Changshou to have a junior like Ling Yi, who was more careless with resources, while he was so careful. Thanks to their efforts, they managed to borrow the 1,000 Poison Gold Furnace from Elder Wan. After getting the furnace, they needed to set up a special formation that required the help of immortals in the genuine immortal realm. Changshou explained to Ling Yi that the three-corner combination formation was different from the usual formations. Their main target was Jiu Wu, but he was known to be suspicious, clever, and cautious. Then, Changshou recalled that Jiu Wu had already suspected him when they were in Baizhila Continent. If they acted recklessly and went straight to Jiu, it would only make Jiu Wu more suspicious. So, they planned to use a trick to lure Jiu Wu in. According to rumors, Jiao was being punished and wasn't allowed to drink wine. Because of this, Ling Yi was given the task of meeting with Jiao Wu to set their plan. The next day, Ling Yi asked Jiao Wu for help in achieving the status of the genuine immortal realm. However, Jiao Wu couldn't help because he was swamped with work, with hundreds of tasks to complete. Not long after, Jiao appeared and asked Jiao Wu for some wine. Without much thought, Jiao Wu considered her to be the one who could help Ling Yi with the genuine immortal realm and told Ling Yi to take Jiao with her. Ling Yi then gave the wine to Jiao, who got very drunk and made things difficult. Struggling to deal with the swaying Jiao, Ling Yi called out for help from her seniors. As a result, Ling Yi was punished and had to cut down trees because she had used up all the soul-breaking pills. At that time, the teacher was very worried about the condition of his students, especially since they hadn't been seen much lately. Meanwhile, Ling Yi kept chopping trees while grumbling. She felt that Changshou just wanted to spend time alone with Jiao, so he made her chop the trees. In reality, Changshou was also having a tough time, as Jiao kept beating him up. Without realizing it, 2 years had passed while they worked on creating a complex labyrinth formation. Finally, the labyrinth was completed, and Jiao helped manage the energy flow. Back in the present, Jiao Wu asked Uncle Lu about the plans he had for using the pill furnace and advancing in the genuine immortal realm. With the strong support of Elder Wan Lingyun, their efforts to create the fairy melting pill were showing better results. Suddenly, Changshou sensed someone approaching his formation, so he used his magic eye to see who it was. It turned out to be Jiao Wu. Changshou thought that if Jiao Wu wasn't familiar with medicine, he wouldn't notice the forbidden ingredients in the fairy melting pill. However, since Jiao Wu was skilled in pill refining, Changshou realized he needed to prevent him from interfering. Then he decided to confuse Jiao Wu by leading him into the labyrinth. Soon after, Jiao Wu checked the entrance to the formation and sent a scout bird to determine the coordinates before entering the labyrinth. But there, Changshou used different tactics to try and overwhelm Jiao Wu in a three-corner combination formation. And Jiao Wu, being a respected figure in the genuine immortal realm, thought it would be impossible for him to be defeated by a simple labyrinth. Realizing that the basic maze wouldn't be enough to trap Jiao Wu, Changshou switched to a more complex chain maze. To figure it out, Jiao Wu used a special technique called the Six Spiritual Loop Formation, which helped him find the Gate of Life through specific vents. These vents were usually aligned with the 6 stars called Southern Territory, Heavenly Mansion, Heavenly Sanar, Heavenly Mystery, Heavenly Cave, Heavenly Phase, and 7 kills. But as Jiao Wu approached one of them, he was met with a series of attacks, which he easily defended against. Confident that he was on the right track, Jiao Wu entered one of the paths, but to his surprise, he ended up back at the start of the maze. No matter what he tried, Jiao Wu kept finding himself back at the beginning. This left him feeling frustrated and annoyed because he couldn't find a way in or out. What Jiao Wu didn't know was that the chain maze had thousands of layers. Changshou, on the other hand, was worried that if he kept Jiao Wu trapped for too long, Jiao Wu might start getting suspicious. So, he knew they needed to finish refining the fairy melting pill quickly. Meanwhile, Jiao Wu continued wandering through the maze until he became exhausted. After passing through 24 different formations, he noticed that they all seemed to be connected, causing him to always end up back where he started. Even though he was tired, Jiao Wu refused to give up and kept searching. As night fell, his body grew weaker, and he had to lean against the wall of the labyrinth to rest. Feeling that his reputation as a genuine immortal was at risk, Jiao Wu decided to try and destroy the formation. To his surprise, the formation seemed to fall apart easily. What he didn't realize was that Changshou had secretly removed the formation. Meanwhile, Changshou and Jiao successfully completed the refining of the fairy melting pill and also managed to dismantle the three-corner combination formation. But then, Jiao mistakenly thought that they had been refining essence recovery pills instead. On the other hand, Jiao Wu peeked inside and became curious about what Jiao and Changshou were doing. He noticed that Jiao was being very sweet to Changshou, even calling him Shashu. Upon hearing that, Jiao Wu misunderstood and thought they were dating because in the past, when he proposed to Jiao Shi, he used a similar nickname, Xiao Shi. So, Jiao Wu decided to leave and go home. The next day, Jiao reminded Changshou of a promise. If Jiao helped complete the pill refining, Changshou had promised to give her jarn wine for a whole year. Upon hearing that, Changshou agreed and also promised to give her some special white grapes he had been growing for a long time. Jiao happily said she would always be ready to help him whenever he needed it. Later, Jiao talked about his marriage to Jiao. He joked that if Jiao got married, someone could help her clean her room. Hearing this, Jiao used her powers to instantly tidy up Jiao's room, saying that Jiao didn't need to rely on anyone else. Soon after, Jiao arrived with a lot of wine. She was immediately asked about her habit of frequently visiting Xiaoqiang Peak. Shyly, Jiao explained that she was helping Changshou refine the essence pill. From the way she looked, Jiao and Jiao thought Jiao might be in love. On the other hand, Changshou hoped that by explaining they were just refining pills, the misunderstanding about their relationship would go away. The next day, Changshou showed Lingyi a giant bird cage. He explained that it was designed to help their teacher get through the thunder disaster safely. Lingyi then realized that her punishment of cutting down trees was actually part of the plan to help their teacher survive the thunder disaster. Suddenly, strange sounds and flashes of thunder appeared in the sky. Changshou checked and discovered that their teacher was not at the peak of Xiaoqiang. Worried, Changshou and his friends immediately went to search for their teacher, fearing that he might be in danger and possibly preparing for the worst. Finally, they managed to find their teacher. Changshou told Lingyi to stay in position while he tried to pass through the dangerous thunder flashes. The teacher was very worried about his students because their cultivation skills weren't strong enough. If they were struck by the thunder, they could die instantly. But Changshou didn't let that stop him and kept going until he reached his teacher. Suddenly, they started to argue, but suddenly, a giant azure green dragon appeared and made them both freeze in place. The dragon demanded to know the way to the Duxian sect. Without speaking, the teacher and Changshou pointed in the direction of the sect, too shocked to say a word. After getting the directions, the dragon left to find the Duxian sect. Meanwhile, the azure dragon arrived at the gate of the Duxian sect. Instead of getting a warm welcome, the dragon was ignored, so it forced its way in and injured the two gatekeepers. The members of the Duxian sect sensed the threat and quickly gathered to defend their home. Changshou and his friends also rushed to the Duxian sect. Soon after, the dragon announced that it had come from the EC palace on the king's orders and demanded that the Duxian sect listen to his message. When the dragon was met with hostility, it became furious and started causing chaos in the Duxian sect. Not long after, Master Wang Qi arrived to confront the Azure Dragon. He criticized the dragon, who was still only at the heavenly immortal stage, for daring to attack the Duxian sect. With a powerful blow, Master Wang Qi sent the dragon flying into the air. He then reminded the dragon that its race often caused trouble for others, even starting wars that disrupted the world. The Azure Dragon angrily replied that the Duxian sect was acting wrongly. Instead of fighting demons, they had injured his marine troops. But then, Master Wang Qi defended Lingyi, saying that the EC coast was a shared area for all races, not just the dragon race. The Azure Dragon was furious and argued that the coast belonged to the dragon race and accused humans of forgetting this. Soon after, he announced that, on the orders of the king of the EC, a maritime conference would be held. Changshou quickly thought about the situation and realized that if the dragon race controlled the EC coast, they would also control the key routes leading to the Five Lands. After receiving the notice about the conference, Master Wang Qi demanded that the dragons leave the Duxian sect's territory immediately. He then kicked the dragon, sending it flying away from the Duxian sect. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed through the air. Master Qi Yuan realized that his thunder calamity was approaching, so he and his two disciples rushed back to Xiaoqiang Peak. The master told his students to stay away so they wouldn't be struck by thunder. The Duxian sect members also prepared to move away from the thunder zone, realizing that this calamity was meant for Master Qi Yuan. Before facing the thunder, the master asked Changshou to take over Xiaoqiang Peak and to take care of Lingyi. Shortly after, Changshou and Lingyi bowed to their teacher. Afterward, Changshou placed his teacher in an old bird cage. The master was puzzled and asked why he had to be in a cage. Changshou explained that the bird cage was a special treasure that could resist heavenly thunder. However, the master doubted this, saying that no treasure could truly withstand heavenly thunder. Not long after, a thunderbolt struck the old bird cage, completely destroying it. And the teacher, hit directly by the lightning, lost his immortal essence. Another thunderbolt struck, and the teacher was in great pain, trying to withstand the heavenly thunder, while Changshou and Lingyi were very worried about his condition. If he were hit by 2 more bolts, the teacher would die. Afraid of losing his teacher, Changshou decided to approach him. After making it through several flashes of lightning, Changshou reached his teacher. As the teacher endured the pain, he noticed something strange, that his body was starting to melt. Shortly after, the thunder stopped, leaving only the teacher's belongings behind. At that moment, Changshou and Lingyi were heartbroken over the loss of their teacher. The people of Dushan sect also mourned Master Qi Yuan's passing. But then, Changshou sensed his teacher's presence. To everyone's surprise and joy, the teacher reappeared. His juniors commented that Qi Yuan had survived the heavenly thunder calamity by performing an immortal body transfer. However, Jiu Wu was confused about how this was done. The elders explained that by liquefying the body, the soul essence could become immortal. Afterward, Jiu Wu began researching because he suspected there was something unusual about how Qi Yuan survived the thunder calamity. He discovered that a technique called fairy investment could protect someone's life force. Jiu Wu then reported to the immortal Master Zhong Yu and Master Wang Qi that the monster problem in the Eastern Sea had been resolved. During an exam, a shrimp monster appeared that needed to be defeated. Junior Liu led his students to get rid of the monster, and Lingyi used a soul-breaking pill to defeat it. There were no other enemies around, not even the Dragon Palace Marine troops. Hearing this, Master Wang Qi admitted that he had misunderstood the situation. Jiu Wu then explained that although they had eliminated the monsters in the East Sea 2 years ago, the East Sea Conference was only now being agreed upon. According to Immortal Master Zhong Yu, the issue about dividing the East Sea coast was just an excuse because the dragon race actually didn't want the region. The masters then asked Jiu Wu to send capable disciples to accompany them. Those who performed well would be rewarded with a secret book from Patian Peak. Jiu Wu then went to Xiaoqiong Peak to meet Changshou and gave him a letter inviting him to participate in the East Sea Coast Conference. When Changshou saw the rewards offered for success at the conference, especially the chance to learn Master Wang Qi's techniques, he was very interested. However, Changshou decided to decline, feeling that he wasn't skilled enough to participate. Jiu Wu thought Changshou was being too modest, especially considering how good he was at refining pills. From a distance, Lingyi was bringing drinks when she overheard their conversation. Shocked by what she heard, she dropped what she was carrying. Jiu Wu then mentioned his previous encounter with Changshou on the Baijula continent, where Changshou had been searching for important ingredients for the fairy melting pill. Jiu Wu also pointed out how Changshou had cleverly obtained the elder's 1,000 poison gold furnace and even tricked him into helping refine the fairy melting pill. Jiu Wu pressured Changshou to admit that he had made the pill, which caused Lingyi to panic and rush over to her senior. Suddenly, Changshou knelt down and handed over the records of the fairy melting pill, admitting that he couldn't keep anything hidden from Jiu Wu and had been forced to make the pill. Jiu Wu then told Changshou that he wouldn't punish him for making the forbidden pill, as long as Changshou agreed to go to the East Sea Coast Conference and succeed. If not, Changshou would face consequences. After delivering this ultimatum, Jiu Wu left Xiaoqiong Peak. Once he was gone, Changshou handed a book to Lingyi. When she opened it, she discovered that the main ingredient for the fairy melting pill was the head of a 3-eyed green snake. Changshou explained that he had deliberately given Jiu Wu the wrong refining records so that Jiu Wu would think he wasn't capable of making the fairy melting pill. After this, Changshou and the other selected disciples began their journey to the East Sea Coast Conference in the Dragon Palace area. Suddenly, Jiu called Changshou over to talk. She mentioned that she had found a recipe to treat heart demons. And Changshou, not wanting to get caught up in irrelevant conversations, tried to walk away, leading to a playful chase between the two. After Jiu gave him a warning, she stopped to meditate. There, Changshou noticed that Jiu seemed very nervous around Master Wang Qi and began thinking of ways to keep her from approaching him again. After some time, They arrived at the East Sea Coast Conference. The host welcomed the guests and announced that the conference was being held in celebration of the 10th birthday of His Highness, the second Prince, Aoi. The host then invited Master Zhongyu and Master Wang Qi to the immortal altar for negotiations, while the disciples were invited to attend a party. Soon after, the disciples entered the party hall, marveling at the splendor of the Dragon Palace. At that time, Jojo was particularly fascinated by a beautiful gem inside a shell. Once he found his spot, Changshou began using a wind transmission technique, which allowed him to receive various types of information without using much energy, so he could filter out important news. Through this technique, Changshou learned the identity of the dragon disciple who had been monitoring the Dushin sect. Meanwhile, the host began telling stories about the history of the dragon race, explaining that the dragons had always been the most powerful among the hundreds of races since ancient times. The dragons had a rich heritage and many great masters. To strengthen the bond between humans and dragons, the conference included events where students could challenge each other. As a reward, there were heavenly spirit treasures that the Dragon Palace had collected over the years. All students were required to participate in these events. One of the Dushin sect disciples commented that the dragon tribe often used big talk to boost their reputation. Hearing this, Xianya warned his fellow disciples not to speak carelessly. Then, a disciple from the dragon race challenged Changshou. The host revealed that this dragon disciple was none other than Prince Aoi. Changshou became anxious because he realized that the second prince had detected the wind transmission technique he had been using. Meanwhile, Prince Aoi, with full of pride, stepped forward and kept staring at Changshou, making him feel embarrassed and uncomfortable. He then announced that he wanted Changshou to be his sparring partner. Reluctantly, Changshou felt he had no choice but to accept the challenge. On the other hand, the people from the dragon race began whispering that they might have chosen the wrong opponent, thinking Changshou was the weakest disciple from the immortal sect. Speculation started spreading among the spectators. But then, Jojo loudly commented that the dragon race was trying to humiliate the Dushin sect on purpose. The host felt uneasy hearing her remarks. And Changshou, feeling overwhelmed and sweating nervously, realized that if his power level increased too much during the fight, it could trigger a thunder disaster. To avoid this, he tried to back out of the match, explaining that his cultivation level was too low and asking Prince Aoi to choose someone else. Xianya even offered to take Changshou's place in the fight. However, Prince Aoi refused to accept Changshou's decision to withdraw and approached him. He declared that if Changshou didn't dare to fight, it would be better for his teacher to admit defeat and submit to the Dragon Palace. Master Wang Qi then stated that the dragon race was claiming the rebel EC army as their own to tarnish the Dushin sect's reputation. Master Zhongyu believed that a match between Changshou and Aoi was inevitable. Through telepathy, Master Wang Qi encouraged Changshou to continue with the match, reminding him that he didn't want the sect's honor to be tainted by unnecessary violence. Master Wang Qi emphasized that Changshou should prioritize his safety. Hearing this, Changshou started to reflect on the deeper meaning of his master's words. Then, Prince Aoi made his move. Changshou used the opportunity when Aoi attacked to try to push the prince out of the arena. But Changshou noticed something strange because it seemed like Aoi was purposely trying to lose the match. At that time, the masters of the Dushin sect began to suspect that Prince Aoi was pretending to lose. They worried that if Prince Aoi was defeated, the dragon race might attack the Dushin sect. They concluded that the best solution was to either end the match in a draw or ensure that Changshou lost. The masters quickly ordered Changshou not to win the fight. Suddenly, the battle became intense, with Prince Aoi using all his strength. And Master Zhongyu, one of the spectators, closely watched Aoi's movements. However, Master Wang Qi received a message from Master Zhongyu, instructing him that Changshou should not win. Changshou then started to act, making the battle look more serious. When the two fighters clashed, Changshou pretended to be injured and purposely stepped out of the arena, giving the victory to Aoi. Even though the dragon race had a glorious past, they no longer ruled the world cause humans did. However, the dragons were still proud of their ancient glory, and Aoi unleashed his full strength against Changshou. Instinctively, Changshou blocked Aoi's attack with ease, causing Ao-E to fall to the ground. The dragon race became furious and wanted to start a fight, but Changshou quickly lowered his energy level to show respect to Ao-E, making it clear he didn't want to harm the prince. At that moment, Ao-E looked confused and tried to stand up, but one of the general ordered the guards to take Ao-E back to the palace. Meanwhile, Changshou pretended to be more injured than he was so he could leave the arena. There, Jiujiu was angry because she believed the second prince had chosen Changshou to embarrass the Duxian sect. In her anger, she attacked some nearby dragon soldiers and challenged the dragon race to a duel. But then, Master Wang Qi quickly reminded Jiujiu to be careful with her actions, as many heavenly immortals were watching the Duxian sect in the Dragon Palace. Hearing this, Jiujiu immediately calmed down. After that, Master Zhongyu asked Jiujiu to take Changshou back to the Duxian sect so he could recover. Next, Master Wang Qi instructed Jiujiu to teach Changshou the mysterious essence fire technique, a skill that strengthens both the soul and body. Jiujiu quickly approached Changshou and passed on the fire technique to him. Shortly after, Changshou regained his senses and thanked Master Wang Qi. The Dragon King noticed how calm Changshou was and wondered if the Elder Immortal had also solved the Eastern Sea's problems with the same calmness. Afterward, Changshou left the East Sea Palace. Meanwhile, Xinya volunteered to compete and challenge the dragon race, while Ao-E wanted to leave his room, but his mother insisted he stay and rest. There, Ao-E expressed his desire to follow the path of the saint and learn from the Duxian sect. On the other hand, Changshou planned to hide on an island, believing it was the perfect spot to lay low. While observing the ocean currents, he discovered an underwater cave that could serve as an escape route. Curious, he decided to explore the cave. Inside, Changshou noticed a dragon-like figure watching him. Suddenly, a giant dragon approached him. Earlier, Prince Ao-E had been in the cave, hiding from one of the general and talking about various camouflage techniques he had learned since he was 6. Ao-E was eager to reach the Duxian sect. As Ao-E was lost in his thoughts, he noticed someone entering the cave and quickly hid, thinking that General had found him. Suddenly, Ao-E attacked Changshou, but instead of capturing him, Ao-E ended up inhaling an anesthetic. When the anesthetic didn't affect Ao-E, Changshou was surprised and quickly formed a water element heavenly seal formation to trap him. With this move, Ao-E was caught and unable to escape. Finally, Changshou managed to lead him out of the cave. After that, Changshou hoped they would never meet again. Meanwhile, the general and his troops were busy searching for Ao-E. When that general finally spotted Ao-E, he quickly alerted his fellow soldiers. But when Ao-E sensed someone approaching, he panicked, thinking it was a human, which left him deeply shaken and traumatized, causing him to become afraid of humans. Not long after, a thunder disaster approached. Changshou and his companion quickly run away to escape the lightning. Remembering how his teacher faced a thunder disaster, Changshou knew that sincerity was important, so he set up a prayer altar with offerings to give thanks and praise to heaven. From a distance in heaven, someone told that the world is constantly destroyed and reborn through calamity. They noted that Taoism is the only way to survive, and that Changshou must prove his understanding of Taoism. And so, the anime continues. The moral lesson from this anime is if you ever get challenged by a dragon, just remember sometimes it's smarter to lose on purpose and run away. Winning isn't everything, especially when dragons are involved.